Hey, Brandon here. Welcome back to the channel. We are going to do another NFL 2023 Rookie Mock Draft 2.0. And with me is one of my favorite guys in the space, Corey Pereira. Corey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Happy to get back into here with you into the film room too. We're going to be doing soon, looking at a lot of these rookies. So make sure you guys are watching this channel for everything coming up in the offseason.
Yeah, that's what this channel is dedicated to, helping you prepare for your rookie drafts in 2023. It'll be here before you know it. We only do mock drafts on this channel that have landing spots and draft capital because I think it matters. And when you're in your drafts, we're always looking at the draft capital and the landing spots. So we took this draft. It was a 7-round mock draft off the internet, and we plugged it onto the board here. So, Corey, we're looking at the draft board that we are going to be drafting today. What do you think about some of the landing spots? Let's just go through briefly before we get started. We're going to do a 3-round mock today. All right. So the quarterback position. What are your take here? We got looks like in this particular draft, mock draft that we're going to be using today. Looks like 6 guys were taken from the quarterback position. What are your just a quick initial thoughts on the landing spots?
Yeah, no, I like a lot of them. I really like CJ Stroud going to the Lions. We saw what their offense has done this year. Him stepping in there, good offensive line, good weapons around him. I think that's a really killer spot. Young going to the Texans obviously is a decent spot too. I mean, they're kind of a team in turmoil, but a lot of interesting things here. Anthony Richardson, could he sit behind Daniel Jones for a year? And then Will Levis getting around on capital was a little bit surprising because I know that we've been a little bit iffy on Levis. So I'm interested to see when he's going to get taken in this draft because of that.
Yeah, I think Will Levis. I mean, we went through this last year, right? We're at that point in the draft, in the mock draft season where, Malik Willis last year was a top 10 pick for so long and then completely fell. So, take a grain of salt with some of those mock drafts, especially from the quarterback position. Because last year, if the lesson has been learned, the NFL draft is maybe not, from a quarterback standpoint, doesn't always kind of pan out. But going back to the running back, let's talk about the running backs. I'm interested. I like the Sean Tucker landing spot in Kansas City. I'm sure that's going to rocket him up draft boards. I like the Charbonnet landing spot in Miami. Those are probably 2 juicy landing spots. Miami, with the explosive offense that they have, they really need a bell cow back there. Not real thrilled with Jahmyr Gibbs going to my Eagles. That might be surprising, but maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that when we're into the draft. What are your kind of thoughts on the running back position?
Yeah, I think you nailed it here. I really think this whole day 2 selection, with the exception of a couple people, are really some nice picks. Even Tank Bigsby going over to the Raiders. I know things are a little bit iffy on him right now, but if Josh Jacobs moves on, maybe he becomes the guy there. Who knows? Devin Achane being maybe a compliment to James Conner over there with the Cardinals. So there's a lot of nice landing spots here. I'm interested to see where these guys are going to land.
Yeah. So as far as the wide receiver position, don't think it's as deep as last year's class. I don't know if we're going to have look, Booty or Boutte, however you want to say his name. I heard it mentioned both ways. I mean, he's now back in the draft. So of course we included him in this draft here. So, with the top 4 or 5, we got some good round 2 picks here. I mean, we got 1, 2, 3, close to 9, 10 guys in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I really do like this whole Texans combo here of the Bryce Young, Quentin Johnson, and Josh Downs grabbing that. It could really remake their entire offense over there going to Houston. So that's kind of interesting. JSN going to possibly be the new Keenan Allen over at San Diego. I love that. That's a perfect spot for him. I think that's a dream spot. I think the one guy that I don't like as much here is maybe Rashee Rice getting that first round capital with the Broncos, just because they're so loaded there at that position already. We don't know what's going to happen with that offense. So eager to see where he's going to fall in this draft as well. But kind of a surprising a spot for him there.
Yeah, well, Rice, I've been a Rice fan for a long time, and that's a heartbreaker for me. To the tight end position, what a juicy spot. Mayer going to Green Bay. I mean, my goodness, that's going to be we're going to be loving that. And Kincaid going to the Bengals. I like that too. That's the two top guys. They're my 2 top tight ends going into the draft next year. 2 great spots for those 2 players.
No, I agree with you. And I really haven't dove too deep into this signing class. Don't really consider myself a tight end guy that much, but I really do like Dalton Kincaid. I think he's a fantastic prospect over there from Utah, led them in touchdowns and receiving this year. So I think could really be a nice fit with that Bengals team and give them another option to go with everything else they got going on over there.
Yeah, for sure. It'll round out that offense quite nice. Well, Corey, you are the guest on my channel, so it would be only fitting to give you the first pick. I have a feeling I know who you're going to pick, but let's go. Let's see. We're going to do 3 rounds, everybody. We're going to quickly pick our player and, give a quick synopsis, again, a landing spot and, what we think the, first year or two of their, draft, their dynasty seasons looks like. So go for it, my friend. Who you taking with the first pick?
Yeah, this is going to be the easiest pick in the draft here, right? At 1.1, I'm going to go ahead and take Bijan Robinson with the round 1 draft capital going over to Atlanta. I think he's going to be an immediate contributor the minute he steps on the field. This is a guy who excels in multiple facets of the game, can play on all 3 downs. I mean, there isn't much else to say here. I don't really think anyone on Atlanta right now poses a threat to him either. Algier, kind of a more of a complimentary back. Patterson getting older, like he could probably step in day 1 and be the guy. So Bijan Robinson here at 1.1.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm really interested to see if Atlanta would actually take Robinson in the first round. It's an interesting landing spot to me. Algiers, 150 yards away from 1,000 yards this season. So, I mean, he's been playing pretty well as a rookie, but he would be a bell cow. I mean, I believe he's the 101 in any rookie draft. I don't care what the landing spots are of any of these players at any position. I think Bijan is the guy. If you're lucky to get him, congratulations. If you got the 101, it means you probably didn't have a great season last year, but you know what? You're all going to be rewarded with, potentially the next stud running back headed to the NFL. All right. I got the second pick here. I'm going to be taking Bryce Young. Now, Corey, you and I on the Slack chat on the Devy dashboard all the time. I've been kind of vocal in saying that I'm concerned about Bryce Young's size. So for me, I'm going to take him here going to the Houstons. He is the first pick in the draft. I've been watching a lot of mock drafts here, getting prepared for this show, and it's something I just love to do. And he has been getting really the first guy off the board in the majority of these mocks going to Houston, if in fact they don't sell the pick. But even if they sell the pick, I think Bryce Young is going to be the guy. I'm a little concerned about his size. So for me, I would be, if I had the second pick and I had people in my league that were really, really anxious to get Bryce Young, I might try and trade down a few spots and let someone come up and take Bryce Young. I'm not as optimistic on his long-term success, given that he's 193 pounds, and I don't believe he's 6 foot. I think he's going to come in at like 5'10 and a half, 5'11. So, but I'm still going to take him here because it's value, and it doesn't mean that I can't hold on to him and trade him and then, and get, improve my team in other ways. But I'm not going to not take the QB1 that's drafted in the NFL draft. So I'll be taking Bryce Young here with the second pick.
Yeah, I have to say I was a little bit surprised by this, obviously, just because of our chats I've got on this slat. I was wondering if maybe your stance has changed on Stroud, or has your chance changed on your stance changed on Tua, that you just, because he's going to be the first quarterback, that's the guy you want to take now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like CJ Stroud too. I just, coming from that system at Ohio State, I've got a little bit of concerns. I know that Justin Fields has translated to the NFL, but he's doing a lot of damage with his legs, and I don't see that in CJ Stroud's game. Right. So I'm going to hedge my bets. I think, Young is a better mental processor than Stroud. So I'm going to take go against my thought process with the size and go, and hopefully he, in a decent landing spot in Houston, especially if they get Quentin Johnston and Downs, like you said here on this mock draft, he'll have at least the guys around him to potentially be good. So, but like I said, I might, trade out of this pick and try and, maybe draft him here and then sell him for a current NFL quarterback on my dynasty team.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you left CJ Stroud for me anyways, because that's where I'm going to go here at the 1.3. He is still currently my quarterback one. I think this is a great spot with the Lions. I alluded to it earlier. We've got a lot of weapons around here. Great O-line. We just saw their offense be one of the top offenses in the league. So I think it's a great spot for him to succeed possibly. And maybe he doesn't even have to play right away if they want to go with Goff a little bit, if we think he needs some time learning. But I think he's got the skills to probably play day one, and I like him here at 1.3.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up. Do you think he gets? I mean, I think all quarterbacks should sit a year. I don't care how good you are, what your prospect is. I mean, for me, if I owned a franchise, I would do what the Kansas City Chiefs did. Right? They had Mahomes, they moved up to get him number 10. Let him sit all year and just learn. And do you think would do that with CJ Stroud if they do in fact pick him?
No, and I mean, we've seen that go well with a lot of guys. Jalen Hurts was another guy that did that. Lamar Jackson was another guy that didn't start right away in his first year. So there's a lot of things that say that that's probably the right way to go. I'm kind of like indifferent. I kind of like to see guys learn on the job as well, but I think you have to accept the fact that there's going to be mistakes. You can't look at it right away and all the mistakes they're making and go, this guy's a bust or whatever. Like, there's going to be learning curves, there's going to be whatever. So I don't mind either way. I think I honestly, if they learn on the job, sometimes there might even be a value there to go and get the guy afterwards. You know what I mean? If guys get down on him because they're seeing him play so badly. So I'm kind of indifferent on that stance, to be honest.
Yeah, my concern has always been with the Zach Wilson, the mental, they got to be smart. Yeah. They got to be mentally tough. All right, with the fourth pick here, I am going to go to the wide receiver. And you know what? You mentioned it earlier. I have Quentin Johnston, Addison, and Smith Najigba all in my tier one, and I'm going to go with Jackson Smith Najigba here. Keenan Allen, like you said, is getting long in the tooth, and they've got one of the elite quarterbacks slinging him the ball, and he should get a huge opportunity. The only knock I see with Smith Najigba's game is his long speed, but I think he's twitchy enough, and he's really got the athleticism and elusiveness to get open. So I just love the landing spot. Love Quentin Johnston too. He'd probably be my pick here if the landing spot for Smith Najigba wasn't as great as it is. So I'm taking JSN here at number 4.
Yeah, it's a juicy spot. I think one of the main concerns everybody has with JSN is the fact that he's mainly a slot guy in college for a lot of time too. But this totally, kind of defeats that, because it's like he could come in and just take over the Keenan Allen role. And we've seen these slot guys be good wide receivers in the NFL too. Top 10 dynasty wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen himself, Amon-Ra St. Brown is now creeping up
Killing
into the top 10 range. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, all these guys, you can still be a really high end wide receiver being a slot guy. So I love that spot for him there at the Chargers. But you alluded to it a little bit earlier. Talking about Quentin Johnston. So that's where I'm going to go with at the 1.5 here, going over to the Texans. Most of the buzz around him seems to be that he's going to be the first wide receiver selected off the board. I think Mock Draft database even has him as a top 10 pick overall right now. Yep. So, a little bit raw, full potential with that size speed combo. Gets to go over there, work with Bryce Young over at the Texans, and hopefully develop into his number one option there as they try to turn around that Texans team.
I like it. He would have been my selection as well. I think he's the only real outside potential alpha one in this class. As much as I like Cedric Tillman, don't think he's got the athleticism, but he's another good receiver that most likely I'll be having on on my roster here as we go through here. All right, I'm with the 106. I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs. My Eagles are taking him here. It looks like at the end with their last pick in the first round. Don't love the landing spot. I get, as an Eagles fan, I wouldn't like Jahmyr Gibbs. I like him as a player from a football standpoint. I think he would add something to the Eagles, but from a fantasy standpoint, I get very frustrated with how the Eagles utilize their running backs. And I think that as much as he was an electric player in college, the Eagles just do not use running backs enough for me. I wish we would run Miles Sanders 20 times a game and get him out and screen passes and stuff, but it just doesn't seem to happen. So I'm still going to take him here because he's in, the other tier 1 running back on my ranks. And I think there's a big teardrop after Gibbs and Robinson. So I'm going to take the running back here, even with my Eagles. I'll enjoy watching him every Sunday.
Yeah, and then I think you kind of nailed it on the head there with the committee, which is one of the things I'm worried about with the Eagles. But then you've also got Hurts, who's going to steal his fair share of the rushing, and especially near the red zone at the goal line. He's a big weapon there, which really takes away from these guys, which is unfortunate. But yeah, one of those picks that could be better for your NFL team than your fantasy team, right?
Right.
So at 107 here, I'm going to go ahead and take the guy who just recently decided to come back into the NFL draft, and that's Kayshon Boutte out of LSU. There's loads of questions in his profile, right? Is he fully healed off the injury? Why was his play so lackluster this year? I'm kind of betting on the talent a little bit that we saw from his freshman season. I don't love this landing spot either with Tennessee, run heavy team. They just drafted Treylon Burks last year as well in the first round. There's going to be questions at the quarterback position as well. So I do think this pick has some risk in it, but it's a mock draft. So I'm going to have some fun with it as well and just go with a guy that I kind of like the talent.
Well, that's the question we all have to think about, right? Do you draft the talent or the situation? And, most people are going to tell you draft the talent. So I like it because we can't get too hung up on landing spots as much as they matter. Still, eventually talent usually supersedes, if they are in a decent situation. I'm going to be having to make the same tough decision here with the 108 because I'm going with Jordan Addison. I like his game. I think he's a technically sound route runner and twitchy athlete. Do I like the landing spot going to New England? Oh my goodness, not really. But man, I'll tell you, they need wide receivers up there. Yeah. Maybe Mac Jones gets it together in the offseason. There just seems to be a lot of turmoil with that, team up there right now. But I like Jordan Addison's game, and he's again in my tier 1 wide receivers, and I'm going to draft the talent here versus landing spot.
Yeah, I am a little bit lower on Addison. I kind of picture him as a little bit more of a complimentary guy. I don't picture him as like that alpha one, kind of like a Devontae Smith with the Eagles. Now with AJ Brown, still a very viable wide receiver for your dynasty team. I just don't know if I picture that elite high ceiling that maybe we could see from a QJ or maybe we could see from a JSN in that Keenan Allen role. So I still like him, and I like the pick there. But yeah, a little bit iffy on the spot. So I'll head over to my 109 here, and I'm going to take a running back who kind of had a weird year this year, but I'm going to go with Zach Evans out of Ole Miss here, going to the Panthers. Um, his valuation is a little bit of a weird one. I was just looking at his tape from this year, actually. I maybe came away slightly underwhelmed, but I know he was battling through some injuries. I'm not sure if that had an effect as well. He had some really fantastic moments over with TCU as well before he came over to Ole Miss. So I just think he's a good all-around runner, decent pass catcher. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a strength in his profile, but early second round draft capital here with the Panthers, just Dante Foreman and Chuba Hubbard in his way to get through. So I think he's going to have an early opportunity here to make some noise.
Yeah, I think he would have a good opportunity. I'm probably lower on Zach Evans than most. I'm going to actually be putting out a film review on this channel, and you and me, Corey, we're going to be actually doing a detailed film review on him next week and putting it out. So we're going to be looking forward to that. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. But yeah, you got the draft capital. Should have the opportunity. Got to swing with that. I'm going with the running back here with the 10th pick too. I'm going with Zach Charbonnet going to Miami. It's probably the most juicy landing spot. I have Zach Charbonnet in my top 5 running backs going into the draft. I'm a little nervous drafting a Pac-12 running back. The success rate of Pac-12 running backs in the NFL aren't great. You and me, Corey, we did a Rashad White last year, and we kind of saw all those missed tackles, which really, I think, can inflate production of Pac-12 running backs. But Zach Charbonnet, I think, is the closest back that we have, given his size, being a 3-down guy who can catch the ball. He's got the power. There's some, chinks in his, in his game. I mean, there's this running back class to me is not going to be, I think there's a lot of good players, but I'm not sure how many immediate starters. And Zach Charbonnet, if he lands in Miami and gets the draft capital that we see here, that we reviewed, he's going to get the opportunity. And I like his size and his ability to catch the ball. And he's not going to be coming off the field on 3rd down. So I'm going to swing here with Zach Charbonnet.
No, and I like that pick. I do think it's kind of a weird pick for Mike McDaniels, because it seems like, at least just off the first year that we have anyways, he kind of seems to like those smaller, faster backs right now, kind of like he did back with San Francisco as well. So this is kind of a weird pick, but if they do go and do this, and obviously they're looking at changing something about that, right? Bringing a little more power to the game. So I do like that pick. I was a little bit surprised to see him in the first round from you, but I do like this pick. I think he's an interesting back, especially with the size he's going to bring. So I'll head over to my 111 here now, and I'm going to take another quarterback, 3rd quarterback off the board here, and I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson, going over to New York, getting the 1st round draft capital for the Giants. And I honestly think that this could be a great spot, because I think we all agree about him, right? He's got major upside with the athleticism, the arm talent, but he might not be there fully as a passer yet, right? So he could go here, he could sit under Daniel Jones for a year, learn the game a little bit more. They could take some time to build up that team around him as well. They've kind of they're not really sure about everything else around there. The offensive line, the wide receiver core as well, kind of shaky right now. So that whole year could take a nice building year and really attack 2024 with Anthony Richardson and a whole new core, kind of bringing in the new era of the New York Giants.
I like it. He's the biggest risk reward pick in the draft, as far as I'm concerned. So, if he's there again, and if the talent of the top tier guys on your board are kind of already taken, we're all playing super flex, and the NFL has a quarterback problem. There simply aren't enough good ones. That's why we watch so many poor games on Sundays, because there's just not enough good ones. So I like the pick, because it's going to be a boom or bust. But if it's a boom, you're going to have a guy that can win with his arm and his legs. I'm going to finish out the first round here. I'm going to take Michael Mayer. In all our dynasty leagues that I play in, we're a tight end premium. Great landing spot in Green Bay. I'm hoping Rodgers continues to play there for a minimum of 3 more years. So not much to say. He's the number 1 tight end in the class. Goes to a great spot. I'm finishing out the first round with Mayer.
No, it's a great pick. They obviously need a tight end there who's actually worth a damn, because they've been struggling at that position for a while now. You still got Mercedes Lewis out there catching touchdowns for them. So, first pick for 2nd round here. I'm actually pretty excited to get this guy here. You alluded to him a little bit in the beginning here, and that's Sean Tucker going to KC in the 2nd round. The allure of KC here is obviously a big part of the equation. I think our biggest question with Tucker coming into this was he going to get the draft capital, right? The buzzes seem to be a little bit quiet about him from a national media standpoint. I was just looking at mock draft database. They got him sitting around like the end of the 3rd, early 4th round selection. Kind of with guys that we haven't even drafted yet in front of him right now. So but in this mock, he gets the 2nd round draft capital that we're hoping he's going to get, and he goes to an amazing team, right? So this is a team who's also been struggling at the running back position ever since pretty much Kareem Hunt, right? They keep looking for that next running back and not being able to succeed there. So with Sean Tucker's explosiveness, his prowess in the receiving game, I think he could be a big weapon for them.
Yeah, you know what? I was watching his film last week. I mean, that guy can catch the ball down the field too.
Mhm.
He's got some wiggle. He's got some route running ability. So I like that pick. I'm sure most people would have thought that I picked him over Zach Charbonnet, but I really like that landing spot down in Miami. Both of them are my top of my kind of tier 2 running backs. So I'm going with one of the wide receivers that I loved. I think you and me, Corey, we did a film review on Cedric Tillman last year, and I fell in love with him after watching the 2021 season against Bama and Georgia, where he dominated both of those defensive backs. This
Yep.
year he got dinged up a little bit, but again, a great spot with Green Bay. Again, hoping Rodgers plays for another couple years, but they need another good boundary receiver. They've got Watson there that we were talking pre-show about. But Cedric Tillman going there. It's one of my favorite receivers in this class. I think he's underrated still. I think, again, Johnston is going to be one of these alpha XZ receivers. Cedric Tillman's got the size, athleticism, prowess going up at the catch point, and it's got some elusiveness and route running ability. So I'm taking my boy Cedric Tillman here at the beginning of the second round.
No, and I love this spot with Green Bay because I think he automatically, for me anyway, steps in as my favorite wide receiver of this whole group right away. Like I understand Christian Watson hype, even Romeo Dubs is doing some things as well, but I think he steps in, could be that prototypical X that they want over there right now, that a guy that can handle being the go-to guy for Rodgers right now. So
Yeah.
I love that pick. At 2.3. I'm going to go with a guy who I've been pretty enamored with throughout his entire
You
career.
have.
Anybody who knows me knows I've been talking about it, and that's Josh Downs
Yeah.
going to the Houston Texans here in the early second. So I guess I'm buying their whole wide receiver core with Quentin Johnson and Downs. So and really those two guys are pretty complementary of each other, right? I mean, he's got the quickness and separation. He's kind of got that on that Waddle Tyreek spectrum as a route runner and stuff like that. He's got great ball tracking down the field as well. But he's a perfect complement to a guy like QJ, who's a size boundary guy, can attack the ball at a high point. So both these guys, I think they could be really interesting in this Texans offense, can really complement each other and send these Texans onto a new era here.
Yeah, he's been your guy for a long time. And you know what? I love it, dude, that you picked him, because I've always preached for years, you take your guy, right?
Yeah.
If you've loved the guy in college and you like the draft capital, you like the landing spot, you want to take your guy. Okay. At number 4 here in the second round, I'm taking Devin A-Chain going to the Cardinals. And I know a lot of A-Chain is a very controversial running back right now. I did a show that's been out on this channel. I put it out last week, my top 10 running back prospects, and he came in at number 3 for me. So I'm getting some heat for that. But listen, the kid has played in the SEC for 3 years. I know he's 5'8", 185 pounds, but I'm just not super enamored with this running back class in general. And I think that if he can find himself on an offense, the Kingsbury offense, with the ability to play behind James Conner, like you talked about, and be a PPR guy, I think he could be a legitimate weapon if used properly. And he's getting the draft capital buzz from all the national scouts. He's in most of their top 5, and I've been watching his film, and I kind of like what I see. Yeah, he's small, but he may be a unicorn. I'm going to take a swing here, given the other running backs left on the board. I think he may be a unicorn PPR option in on Dynasty rosters.
Yeah, and I think when he tests that like 4.2, like 40 at the combine, this guy has probably the potential to end up as a late first round pick, similar to like James Cook last year, who was, we're all running back starving, right? And he ended up like a late first round pick last year. I think the same thing could happen to A-Chain once he gets the draft capital, once he runs like that. I do worry as well if he's ever going to get like a full role, but with the way the NFL is going nowadays, more committees, he could be that 1B, similar to like an Alvin Kamara earlier in his career with Mark Ingram, right? Who was still a top fantasy back, right? So if he goes to the right staff that's going to use him that way, like maybe with the Cardinals and James Conner, like that could be a really good spot for him. So I like that pick there. I think mid-second is probably the range that I'm aiming for him as well. I'm not going to aim for that first, but mid-second I think is a good price for him.
Cool.
For me, what pick are we at here?
205.
205 here. I'm going to go and talk about a guy I was talking about a little bit earlier as well, with the Raiders taking Tank Bigsby in round 3. This is going to be a team who might see a lot of turnover this offseason right now, with Derek Carr seemingly might be on the way out. Josh Jacobs is probably headed for a big payday in free agency as well. So there is going to be an opening there for a guy like Tank to contribute early. I know he had a little bit of a rough year at Auburn here. Never really got to see those flashes we saw a little bit earlier in his career, but I'm giving a little bit of leniency to the situation, and I like the draft capital for him here in this situation. So I'm going to take Tank Bigsby here.
All right, sounds good. I'm going with another one of my favorite receivers, Rashee Rice. I hate the landing spot in Denver. I absolutely hate it. But again, I like his game. He got the draft capital. I just like the player I have. He's been one of the most productive receivers in college football. I like his physicality. I like he can play inside and out. I like his versatility. I'm going with Rashee Rice here with the 2.06.
Right, and that's getting a first-round wide receiver in the mid-second, which is always a chance worth taking, which is exactly what I'm going to do here at 2.7 by taking Jalen Hyatt, a guy who strikes me as a bit of a one-note receiver as a speed threat, but he's getting the first-round draft capital. He's going to the Ravens, which isn't the best spot for wide receivers. We know that, but they could use another option to spread the field there. The departure of Hollywood Brown, they never really be able to replace what he brought to that team. Maybe he could be the guy to do that. And honestly, I just couldn't let a round one wide receiver slip any further than this. So I think this is a good spot to take a chance on.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he actually gets first round draft capital or
Yeah.
not. So with the 208, I'm going to take Blake Corum, another guy that I've liked, Corey, you've known for a long time.
Yep.
It's a shame he got hurt. He's not going to be playing this weekend in the bowl games or in the championship games, rather. But Blake Corum has just been a solid wide receiver. Now, I know there's people that are going to be concerned about his size. He's 5'9", I think 210, something around that range. But again, like you said, the NFL's full of back or committee backs, rather. Guy can catch the ball out of the backfield. I just love his toughness. And I think the teams are just going to fall in love with his intangibles. He's a football player in and out. First one at the building, last one to leave. He's lived and breathed football. Landing spot, let Dameon Pierce be the main guy, but, filter in Blake Corum, great backup to have in case something happens to Pierce. So I could see him being a spot starter. Don't know if Blake Corum's ever going to come in and be a full-time starter, but I heard a comp out there from somebody that Doug Martin, it's kind of the same size, kind of running style. I kind of like that comp. So I'm going to go with Blake Corum here.
Okay, and I'm gonna at my 2.09 here. I'm gonna go with my first tight end off the board, which I think is kind of a nice value here. Actually, when I was looking at it, I was surprised he actually lasted this long. When I was thinking about it, the fact that this guy got round one draft capital, going to an explosive offense in the Bengals, and that's Dalton Kincaid. I think he's a great tight end talent, good all around talent. He's even graded really well in blocking these past 3 years as well. That Utah tight end friendly offense as well was really featured over there. Really strong at the catch point. So I think that he could be a real difference maker for this Bengals team with all the weapons they have over there. Just another piece to add to that explosive offense.
Yeah, that's a great landing spot. That'll inflate his, his draft capital for sure. At the 210 here, I'm going to take Zay Flowers. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little concerned that he didn't get an invite to the Senior Bowl and he's going to the Shrine Bowl. But in this particular mock draft, he got the draft capital. Is in a situation at the Seahawks where, again, good opportunity. Geno Smith is probably, I'm thinking, going to be the quarterback next year who can sling the ball vertical. But Zay Flowers, he's going to be a slot guy in the NFL, but certainly shifty. He's not the most physical receiver, but here we are at the end of the second round. I'm going to take Zay Flowers.
Yeah, that one kind of hurt me a little bit because Zay Flowers kind of been my guy. I've dropped a little bit on him, or a little bit of lack of play strength there that I think the NFL really wants to see from guys like this. Probably the most dynamic guy in the open field in college right now, though. But I just want to say you did mention the East-West Shrine game, which I think is a big damper for me as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, you see Jim Nagy who runs the Senior Bowl as well on Twitter, and he's talking about it. Someone asked him about Zay Flowers, and he goes, "Hey, I want him here. If he wants to be here, he can be here," which I found weird. Like, did he just want to go to the East-West Shrine game? I guess. Like, is there some kind of thing there? Is East-West trying to become a bigger game? They want to get a big name talent. I don't know what's going on there, but it seemed like he has the national attention. Even look at mock draft database. He's like a second round pick right now.
That's right.
So he has that attention. So that was a really weird thing. So eager to see what happens there if he's going to get the capital as well. So I'm going to head over to 211 here, and I'm going to take a guy that, I was preaching for everybody to buy last offseason.
You did.
And that's Condre Miller out of TCU. Really had a breakout season for TCU with Zach Evans departing. Brings a lot of things to the table with size, production, athleticism. Got a nose for the end zone as well, which is something you really like to see. Was really used well in that goal line situation. The Ravens spot is a tricky one because, J.K. Dobbins is still there. You still have Lamar, kind of the same thing we were talking about with Hurts, where they take a lot of the rushing away. I wonder if maybe he could fill that Gus Edwards role, though. Like if Gus Edwards decides to move on. We've been able to start Gus Edwards at times as well. You never know what's going to happen with injuries and stuff as well. So a little bit of a bet on the talent here. And I'm going to go with my guy, Condre Miller here.
Yeah, he's been your guy for a while, man. This is where we are, man. This point in the draft, it's take your guy, right? If he's there and you're okay with the landing spot to a certain degree, then go for it. And I'm going to do that exact same thing with Marvin Mims. Take it rounding out the second round here. Going to the Patriots, another yucky landing spot. Addison, and looks like they're doubling down, trying to, if they want to really accelerate this passing game, they need to get some weapons, right? So Marvin Mims, he had a great game last night on the Cheez-It Bowl, had 2 great boundary catches. So we put some good film on for at least for the NFL scouts to end his collegiate career last night. But again, he's one of these smaller receivers. This receiving class has got a lot of these 5'11", 170, 185-pound guys. And I think Marvin Mims is the most physical amongst this group when it comes to that size. So I'm going to bank on that physicality. And his hands are questionable sometimes, but I'm going to take him here to round out the second round.
Yeah, I actually wonder if he's a sneaky candidate to return because I'm surprised he already played in the bowl game as well. There's been a little bit of talk about that he's kind of 50-50 that he might return. So we could be seeing Marvin Mims return to OU and maybe not even see him in this draft. But
it's interesting you say that because I think Blake Corum could do the same. I could see him coming back to Michigan to try and win another national championship if they don't win, and I have a feeling that's why he hasn't declared. All right, Corey, you've got the first pick here in the third round. Let's quickly run through these and tell me who you picked with the 301.
Yeah, you made me pick the most disgusting pick of the draft here because you just wouldn't take the guy. But how am I supposed to let a quarterback who got drafted in the first round fall any further? Okay, I had to take Will Levis here, who we don't like very much, but it's a first round quarterback. He's going to the Colts. They obviously need a quarterback. They've been struggling for years trying to find the guy. If they see enough in this guy, if they can develop him, he's got some interesting tools, right? But overall, with Will Levis, like you were saying in the beginning, I do hope that the NFL can smarten up a little bit, like they did with Malik Willis, who was a first-round pick at this time as well, but then eventually got drafted to the third. I'm hoping that still happens because I just don't see it with him. He struggled against top defenses. He's got some tools and stuff like that, but I'm just not seeing it fully there with him as well.
He's the most polarizing pick in this entire draft, so
yeah,
it's another high risk reward. I'm going with Charlie Jones, man. Third round draft capital going to Chicago. Going to have a good opportunity playing with Fields. Sign me up with Charlie Jones.
Yeah, no, good pick there. At 3.3, I'm going with another day 2 running back here in Chase Brown. Had a fantastic year for Illinois. Going over to the Broncos, which is kind of weird because obviously they still have Javonte Williams coming back. But how healthy is Javonte Williams going to be to start the year? Could Chase Brown get a little bit more run to start? Maybe that offense can rebound next year. So I'm just taking the draft capital here and a guy who had a pretty decent season for Illinois.
Yeah, he certainly did. I'm going to take a tight end here who I really like almost as much as Dalton Kincaid and Luke Musgrave. I don't know if you've watched any film on this kid, Corey. You said you haven't really watched a lot of tight end, but man, I'll tell you what, this kid is athletic. He's got size, length. I like the landing spot with the Lions. I'm going to take Luke Musgrave here.
No, and he's definitely been a riser in this cycle. Somebody that I got to give a little more attention to because I actually haven't watched much of him. But yeah, I think he's going to the Senior Bowl too, right? Could get a nice boost over there. So, but heading over to 305 here, I'm going to take the enigma. That is Raheem Jarrett coming out of Maryland, right? I think once he tests, he could go even higher in this draft because I think he will test well. But his production has always left something to kind of be desired, right? He's had multiple opportunities to be the guy over there. But former 5-star guy going to my Minnesota Vikings who could use somebody to replace Thielen over there. So I'm going to take him here and hope that he can maybe become something more than he was in college.
Yeah, he has been. Everyone's really been down on him. If he tests well, he could just be a sneaky riser, and I've seen it happen before. So,
yeah.
With the 306 here, I'm going to take Kenny McIntosh, running back that I like out of Georgia. Again, he's going to be, I think, following in the James Cook mode. Very limited use, probably in between the tackles, but a PPR option. I think the NFL just likes Georgia running backs. They're Georgia tough.
You sure do.
And on the Vikings here, I mean, Dalvin Cook's not getting any younger. I think their backup, I forget his name right now. Madison. I think he's an unrestricted free agent, so he might try and get an opportunity somewhere next year. So I'm going to take McIntosh here in the middle of the third.
No, it's nice. I think he kind of disappointed as a rusher at times this year, but he could be a great complementary player to a guy like Cook next year, who's getting a little bit older as well. At 3.7 here, I'm going to go a little bit off the board for a guy who's getting a lot of hype. In draft circles right now, probably another guy who's probably more of a better for your team better for your NFL team than fantasy team, but that's tight end Darnell Washington out of Georgia. He gets third round draft capital going over to the Titans, who have used their tight ends more than they've used their wide receivers this year. So it's a pretty good spot for him, but he's 6'8", he's almost 270 pounds, 275 pounds. He's kind of in that Jelani Woods mold from last year, right? So I'm still not sure how he's going to translate to the next level, but deep in the third here, I'm willing to take the shot.
Yeah, I can see the Titans taking a guy like him because he's an outstanding run blocker and he's big and physical and tough, and they love to run the ball. So with the 308 here, I'm going to go with Eric Gray, a running back who I was kind of down on after he went to his first season at Oklahoma. But I'll tell you, this year he rebounded very nicely as a senior. I think he is going to the Senior Bowl, going to the New England Patriots. I'm taking too many Patriots in this mock draft, I have a feeling. But in any case, I really like his game. We're in the middle, late part of the third round here. Again, I like the talent. I think, like I said, I was down on him, but he really impressed me. He really rebounded. It looks like he gained like 15 pounds. His
That too, yep.
lower legs look, twice the size as they were last year. And it showed on the field this year at Oklahoma. So I'm taking Eric Gray here.
I honestly think he's like a legit sleeper in this class. He's going to be a guy that I'm pounding the table for a little bit as a sleeper in this class. Somebody outside that, like, whatever that top tier guys. I thought he did really well this year too. So, heading over to 309, I think we're at here. I'm going to take another shot at a QB, and yes, that now makes 4 quarterbacks I've drafted. But apparently Brandon hates quarterbacks, so I have to take all of them. Yep. But this is a guy who was having a fantastic year, playing a little bit of a simplistic offense over there in Tennessee and Josh Heupel's air raid there. But he's got a huge arm. Sorry, I forgot to mention his name. I'm taking Hendon Hooker, who got drafted in the 3rd round to the Saints. Got a huge arm, a little bit of a power rusher, wildly productive before suffering the ACL. That's kind of the big ding on him right now. Probably would have been a late first, early 2nd round NFL draft guy, if not for the ACL, but definitely going to ding him a little bit now. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready for the start of the year, but New Orleans definitely needs some quarterback bodies in that room right now, and maybe he can become that guy over there.
I like it. I'm going to stay in the Saints building, and I'm going to take Rashawn Johnson, running back. Alvin Kamara, I wish I'd sold him on my dynasty rosters a year or 2 ago, because I think the sell window is closing shortly. I think the guy's only had 1 damn touchdown all year, which kind of sucks. But
it's been rough. Yeah,
it has been a rough year for Kamara owners. But Rashawn Johnson, again, just a big physical back who played behind Bijan Robinson. Going to take him here. I like the landing spot with the Saints. He's got decent draft capital. What was his draft capital? He got round 4, so that's not awful. So I'm going to take him here going to the Saints.
No, very reliable running back, very high character guy by all reports as well. Going to the Senior Bowl, going to be able to brown nose with a lot of the coaching staffs over there as well. So I like that pick here. For my last pick here at 311, I'm going to probably go with a guy who I would have taken a lot earlier if he got some better draft capital, and I do think he'll probably get better draft capital in this. But for this purpose, we have to go off of what we got here, and we got Israel Abanaconda going to Seattle in the 5th round, which isn't the greatest landing spot, right? They obviously have Kenneth Walker over there, who was drafted highly last year. But Israel had a tremendous season this year. He really did. So, like, this is a guy that I was hyping up 2 years ago as well on our channel 2 years ago. You can go see those videos as well. So, another guy that I'm just betting on the talent here in the 3rd round and hoping that maybe something can happen where he becomes the guy.
Yeah, and I think we're going to find out a lot of these guys are going to end up being backups waiting for their opportunity in this particular class. All right, I'm going to end the draft here with a player that I like, again, with the landing spot that I like, Puka Nacua. Going to, the draft capital here is late day 3. So the odds are that he's going to hit, but I think he could be an underrated, receiver. I know, they have Raheem Jarrett here that you just selected earlier, but they really need wide receivers to complement Jefferson. Thielen's not getting any younger, and I'm not really sure they have any other options other than, Johnson or Jefferson right now. So I'm taking Puka Nacua here to end the 3rd round. So, all right, Corey, let's take a look at the remaining draft board, at least for this mock draft. All right. Jaron Hall is a quarterback that I kind of like. I'm surprised I would pick him early 4th, somebody who, might be able to, get some play. Anybody on this list here that you would be taking early in your 4th to round out the show here?
Yeah, I guess, when you've got a day 2 wide receiver in A.T. Perry, going over to Jacksonville could probably be a nice weapon for them over there. They need a nice outside boundary guy, someone to maybe replace Marvin Jones. I know we don't necessarily love A.T. Perry, but if he gets his draft capital and stuff, I'd probably take a shot on him here in the 4th because you just have to. I know a lot of people like Dwayne McBride as well, running back going over to New York Giants there in the 4th round. Could be a lot different if Saquon somehow moves on as well, but this is a guy who's a G5 running back, little to no receiving profile, a little bit of a fumbling issue as well. All enough for me to fade at this point. I'm glad we didn't end up drafting him. So we're on the same page there. But one interesting one that I did think was Parker Washington getting drafted in the 5th in this draft. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I thought it was a little low, but it's been really quiet. I mean, again, I do a lot of research on these players, and he's just not getting. I mean, I know he declared for the draft, but I mean, I think he's probably going to be a top 15 wide receiver, top 20. When it's all said and done, probably.
Yeah, he kind of had a down year, I guess. Picked it up a little bit towards the end of the year, and we've seen some nice things from him in the film reviews we did. Great hands, good option out of the slot. Still has to kind of refine his ability and put it a little bit more together. So I think he could go a lot higher than that round 5 draft capital he was credited with here.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's one player that's not included in this draft that I will be taking in my top 3 rounds, and that's Roma Dunze. Now, he is yet to, he played last night, and if he, declares for the draft, I'm sure he'll be starting to show up in a lot of mocks, but right now he's not because he has not declared. So, hey, Corey, that is the show, my friend. Always enjoy you jumping on the channel. Again, please subscribe to the channel. Corey and I, we have all sorts of rookie stuff. We're going to be doing film breakdowns, sleeper shows, bus shows, everything. So, Corey, thanks for joining us for this mock today. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. Anytime.
All right. See you guys.